Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 208. Without any delay, start explanation. This was an extremely large and comfortably spacious hall. The floor was black with a white dragon pattern on glossy mica. The hall was divided into regions with arch-shaped counters arranged neatly. The ceiling was 20 meters high with glass walls. One could see the clouds outside clearly. The place deserved its title of Sky Dragon's Roar. May I ask if this is your first time at our level 101, the maiden asked with a smile. Tang Wulin nodded. Yes, it's my first time here. I'm glad to be at your service. You can call me Shui Yu. The young maiden smiled as she nodded. Shui Yu. That's a peculiar name. Tang Wulin looked at her with slight astonishment. The maiden cracked a charming grin. Yes, everyone says so. Each of our staff members has his or her own nickname. I was born in Coastal City and my martial soul is a fish type. I have a tendency to cry, so everyone says that I have too much water in me. That's how I got my nickname Shui Yu. Tang Wulin could not help laughing aloud. Shui Yu was immediately stunned upon watching Tang Wulin as he laughed. She thought to herself how very handsome this young man was. His laugh could attract everyone's attention. Since it's your first time here, then I shall give you a brief introduction. The Spirit Pagoda values all its battle armor masters very much, that's why this is a special region designed to serve them specifically. We hope that every battle armor master can find his or her own voice in the Soul Master's world like a real dragon. That's why this place is called Sky Dragon's Roar. A battle armor master will receive a series of concierge services upon registering with our Spirit Pagoda. Firstly, we'll provide you with the executive services that ordinary soul masters won't receive. You can enter the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform twice a year and Spirit Soul Tower once a year for free. At the same time, you can also enter the advanced Spirit Ascension Tower once at half price. These are the basic services offered to our one-word battle armor masters. If you're capable of elevating to an even higher level, then you'll receive even better concierge services. Tang Wulin was feeling shocked, as he was aware of how many resources he would need to enter the Spirit Ascension platform. He was allowed to enter the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform twice a year? He should be able to handle the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform with his cultivation base now. On the other hand, the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform was extremely suitable for him to elevate the age limit of his soul rings. So how much do I pay? Tang Wulin maintained his composure and asked. Shui Yu smiled and said, nothing. You'll only need to complete your registration with us over here. At the same time, the Spirit Pagoda will be assigning some missions especially for battle armor masters which you can accept if you're interested. Our reward for missions is certainly the best. We are a platform for both Soul Masters and Battle Armor Masters. As a platform, we will certainly provide an honorable guest like you with all the services at your convenience so that you can advance to an even higher level in the future. Tang Wulin had already been dealing with the Spirit Pagoda for some time, but this was still his first time to learn that it was capable of providing such impressive service. No wonder they were able to become the #1 organization on the continent. Other organizations were not equipped as well as they were, just by judging by their attempts at winning over Soul Masters. Tang Wulin could not help asking, if the Spirit Pagoda is only providing us with conveniences and benefits without any requirements, that doesn't seem to be logical. Shui Yu stuck out her tongue in an extremely adorable manner. Actually, we have our own way of doing our job. When you're used to Spirit Pagoda's benefits, then you'll naturally hope to enjoy even more benefits. For example, you may wish to enter the Advanced Spirit Ascension platform and receive an even higher Spirit Soul level. These services not only require you to pay money, but some high-level services also require you to pay with mission points as a payment method rather than on a monetary basis. In other words, when you need some higher-level services, you'll need to carry out some missions for the Spirit Pagoda. Tang Wulin suddenly felt enlightened. As expected, there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. At the same time, you'll also need to wear the communicator watch distributed by our Spirit Pagoda on a daily basis so we can send out mission lists to you. You can choose not to accept the mission, but you'll still need to wear the watch. You're only allowed to enjoy all the benefits and services when you wear the watch for a certain amount of time daily. Tang Wulin smiled. The spirit pagoda was formidable as expected. This seemed like a small matter, but it allowed the spirit pagoda to send out any information it wished to give to all its registered soul masters simultaneously, especially to its battle armor masters. This was a very powerful maneuver. In other words, the spirit pagoda could immediately distribute information to a large amount of soul master powerhouses at its choosing, while simultaneously sending them some missions. Even though it did not possess a very strong controlling force, but at least it was capable of winning over the soul masters. On the other hand, the soul masters would never give up on the spirit pagoda's spirit souls. Thus, the soul masters would grow dependent on the spirit pagoda. No wonder the Tang sect, despite having a longer lineage than the spirit pagoda, had its status as the #1 organization usurped by the latter. This was the formidable power of monopoly. I understand now. So can we enter to perform the registration now? Tang Wulin asked. Of course. Please follow me. Shuiyu brought Tang Wulin to a counter and spoke to a beautiful lady behind the counter dressed in the same attire as she. This respected battle armor master wishes to name his battle armor. The lady behind the counter stood up and said, "Please follow us to the testing room to perform the evaluation." The method to evaluate a battle armor master's identity was extremely simple. It was enough to unleash one's battle armor, and then receive an energy scan to confirm the battle armor's amplification effect and the individual pieces of the complete set of armor. The testing room was located behind the counter. It was a hexagonal room with complicated soul circuit symbols on the ground. Tang Wulin did not have much knowledge on this area, but he felt that it appeared magnificent. A circular instrument hung above his head. "Please unleash your battle armor," Shuiyu requested. Tang Wulin shifted his consciousness as speckles of radiance glowed from all across his body. "Is that two-word battle armor?" Shuiyu and the other staff could not help speaking simultaneously. Golden battle armor emerged and enshrouded his entire body. When the golden mask dropped down and covered Tang Wulin's face, the aura emitted from his entire body was such that the two staff members could not help covering their mouths in astonishment. Such a powerful, imposing manner. They had seen much battle armor as the staff of Sky Dragon's roar, but this was still their first time witnessing armor as overbearing as Tang Wulin's. In reality, this was not the battle armor's own imposing manner, but such immense pressure was only emitted when the battle armor fused with Tang Wulin's aura so that his bloodline aura was aroused. A beam of light descended from the sky and illuminated Tang Wulin's body. Tang Wulin felt as if something swept past his body. Soon, an electronic voice echoed. One-word battle armor made from spirit alloy metal. Battle armor grade, black. Tang Wulin had learned about battle armor grading since earlier. There were many tests related to Soul Master's battle armor on Dolor continent just like mechas. The grades were all made using similar color series as soul rings from lowest to highest class from white, yellow, purple, black to red. At most, with the addition of golden color. The battle armor grading referred to the different grades that were present in battle armors of the same class. For example, Spirit Alloy one-word battle armor and ordinary one-word battle armor were surely not of the same grade despite being similarly one-word battle armor. This point was utterly undisputed. One-word battle armor was considered rudimentary for battle armor masters. Hence, it was even more important for them to accumulate experience when they were producing battle armor. After all, they would still need to produce their two-word battle armor. Thus, most one-word battle armor was grade white or yellow. It was already rare for one to achieve purple. Generally, purple was the limit of one-word battle armor because the evaluation could only be done on the one-word battle armor's metallic body. Only someone like Tang Wulin who possessed the spirit alloy could possibly achieve a higher grade battle armor. It would require a strong metallic body with a high degree of amplification and good forging skills to produce such a battle armor. There was no doubt that Tang Wulin's one-word battle armor was exceedingly powerful. It was forged with a spirit alloy of 85% harmony rate. In addition, it was designed by Ji Yu and fabricated by Yi Xinglan. Only then could such a rare black grade one-word battle armor be produced. The two beautiful personnel seemed to have seen a ghost the moment they looked at Tang Wulin. This was even more surprising to them than when they first thought that Tang Wulin was a two-word battle armor master. A black, one-word battle armor signified that the battle armor master possessed profound inner secrets. A one-word battle armor made of spirit alloy was as rare as phoenix feathers or a unicorn's horn in the Soul Master's world. Furthermore, a one-word battle armor made of spirit alloy could be upgraded directly without the need to forge again. One would only need to add in the metal to produce a higher-grade alloy and then fabricate a new design. This was much easier than to produce a new two-word battle armor. Hence, the spirit alloy one-word battle armor would be considered a futuristic design. Tang Wulin was young and handsome. How could the female staff resist ogling at him? Is it done? Tang Wulin had to ask twice before the two female staff responded to the question. Shuiyu hastily spoke, "Yes, it's done. Please follow us." The registration process involved filling in a form with details of one's academy, age, battle armor master grade, and most importantly the battle armor's name. Dragon. Shuiyu looked at Tang Wulin in astonishment. There were many people naming their battle armors Dragon, which related to their martial souls, but there was hardly any spirit alloy one-word battle armor masters. Shuiyu could not help making wild guesses about Tang Wulin's abilities. Tang Wulin named his battle armor Dragon, just as he willingly buried the true Dragon clan's bones. It was the Golden Dragon King bloodline that made him. Since then, he had made the decision to use Dragon as the first word of his battle armor's name. Thus, he could use Dragon Tang Wulin to address himself as a one-word battle armor master. Generally, one would only address oneself as such when one had accomplished a two-word battle armor in the battle armor master's world. The reason being a one-word name sounded plain. Also, many battle armor master thought of themselves as true battle armor master only upon owning a two-word battle armor. However, a spirit alloy one-word battle armor was an exception. Tang Wulin boarded the elevator and returned to the ground level under the fixed gaze of Shuiyu. He was not in the mood to exchange his communicator's number with her. Usually, the Spirit Pagoda's staff were ethical in not flirting with the visitors. In Tang Wulin's case, they only looked at him with a longing gaze. Tang Wulin left the Spirit Pagoda and could not help looking back instinctively. There was a look of confusion in his eyes. "You there? Are you in the Spirit Pagoda? Where else can you be? Wait for me. Soon, I'll have the second word to my name. By then, your name will be the second word." Shrek Academy's inner court finally made arrangements for Tang Wulin. They first confirmed his identity as an inner court disciple. At the same time, he was confirmed as the new captain of Shrek 7 Monsters substituting Guu. This had been decided 3 years ago. In addition, Tang Wulin was allowed to live on Sea God's Island. His appointed tutor was his grand teacher, Shuosha. It was apparent that the letter Enea left behind for Atlas Dolor was not in Tang Wulin's favor. Tang Wulin was not in Atlas Dulu's good books due to Enea's incident. Atlas Dolor was a virtuous person. In his view, Tang Wulin managed to get the attention of so many females, so he must certainly be doing something that was attractive to them. Tang Wulin was the cause of Enea's departure, which made Atlas Dolor extremely displeased. Yet, Tang Wulin's contribution to Shrek Academy was immense. Thus, even Atlas Dolor was incapable of revoking Tang Wulin's title as the captain of Shrek 7 Monsters unless Tang Wulin made a grave mistake. Moreover, Tang Wulin's physical test made a rather impressive effect during the Sea God Pavilion meeting. "Good boy." Shuosha slapped Tang Wulin's shoulder. Tang Wulin bared his teeth unceasingly with the slap from this old man. "You've truly made me proud. What's going on with that physical test of yours? Your right fist's strength is over 100,000 kilograms. Ha ha ha. You didn't see the elder's expressions during the meeting. Even the light dark Dolor Elder Long was extremely surprised. From now on, you shall stay on Sea God's Island and continue to pursue your advanced studies with me. You'll need to learn my Scarlet Dragon 9 moves, and also elevate that piteously low soul power of yours quickly. Your soul power is less than your comrades by 1 level. How did you manage to become Shrek's 7 monsters captain? Yes, I'll certainly learn diligently. Shuoisha's Scarlet Dragon 9 moves turned into the Golden Dragon 9 moves naturally in Tang Wulin's hands. Till now, he had mastered it and was even well versed with Golden Dragon shocks the heavens and Golden Dragon shakes the earth. This could be the best method for Tang Wulin to use his blood essence power. He had yearned for the Scarlet Dragon 9 moves for a long time. It was because of the limitation of his cultivation base that he did not manage to learn earlier. Now that his soul power was much elevated than before, he had achieved 4 rings at least. More importantly, the blood essence power in his body was now exceedingly thick and condensed akin to mercury, so he would yield twice the result with half the effort in cultivating this Golden Dragon 9 moves. Shuoisha did not take Tang Wulin too seriously when Tang Wulin mentioned he was going to learn diligently. However, it turned out Tang Wulin was indeed serious about what he said. Tang Wulin soon began learning under Shuoisha's guidance. He learned without stopping. What did it mean by without stopping? He did not rest at all. He did 3 things only every day: practice Golden Dragon 9 moves, meditate, and forge. These were the 3 things he did daily. He considered meditation as a break for him as he continued learning as soon as his soul power was restored. He spent 3 hours daily on forging and the remaining time was spent on meditating and practicing the Golden Dragon 9 moves. This was considered normal practice for an inner court student, but only when the practice is for a day or 2. However, in Tang Wulin's case, he cultivated in this manner for 3 months. The strong bloodline power in his body was finally aroused from the cultivation of the Golden Dragon 9 moves. He relied on his strong bloodline power that he was not fatigued at all. Tang Wulin seemed to be another person at present in Shuoisha's eyes. He was completely different from 3 years ago. Tang Wulin's gifted natural endowments when he cultivated the Golden Dragon 9 moves exceeded Shuoisha's expectation. 3 months seemed short for a Soul Master's cultivation, but Tang Wulin cultivated for 3 months and yielded results that were equal to an ordinary Soul Master's cultivation for a year. Even the most hard-working inner court disciple in Shrek Academy could only cultivate for half the time Tang Wulin spent in cultivation. Thus, he was a whole new person within 3 short months. Grand Teacher? Tang Wulin saluted Shuoisha respectfully. Shuoisha spoke with a pleasant smile on his face. Is there anything that you don't understand? Tang Wulin shook his head. No, Grand Teacher. I wish to stop cultivating the Golden Dragon 9 moves temporarily. Shuoisha, who had a nasty temper, would have slapped and scolded Tang Wulin for being lazy had he been another disciple. However, he felt relieved when Tang Wulin said that. Was the young fellow finally feeling exhausted and wished to rest? Very well. You ought to relax for a while. Adequate relaxation is beneficial for follow-up cultivation. Tang Wulin shook his head. It's not like that, Grand Teacher. I'm not taking a rest. I plan to challenge the bottleneck of rank 50. I've already cultivated my soul power to the peak of rank 49. He had only spent 3 months to elevate himself from rank 47 to the peak of rank 49. The body sect cultivation method had stimulated his body. In addition to the awakening of the Blue-Silver Emperor, Tang Wulin's soul power cultivation speed was finally elevated. He had achieved an unprecedented level. His soul power had finally reached the threshold of another breakthrough as a result of his painstaking efforts. Shuoisha's mouth was agape. I think you ought to slow down for a few days to recuperate yourself before you begin the breakthrough. Tang Wulin spoke. Grand Teacher, my body is in an extremely good state. I have a feeling that I can do this. The bottleneck of rank 50 is not that tough. Please allow me to have a go at breaking through. I'll think about rest when I'm done breaking through to rank 50. Shuoisha hesitated slightly before he nodded. All right then, I'll help to protect you. Thank you, Grand Teacher. It was difficult for Shuoisha to say no to Tang Wulin. What did he do for the past 3 months? He managed to cultivate his soul power to the peak of rank 49, while at the same time, he had accomplished 4 moves out of the Golden Dragon 9 moves. He did not just exercise basic control over the moves, but he had achieved mastery through his comprehensive learning. The 3 final moves of Shuoisha's Golden Dragon 9 moves required a large amount of soul power that it could not be substituted with blood essence power. Thus, Shuoisha felt there was nothing more he could teach Tang Wulin presently. Feng Wuyu had the same feeling too. Tang Wulin's forging had already achieved the peak level of a rank 6 blacksmith. He was only a step behind a rank 7 blacksmith, which required the completion of soul forging. Feng Wuyu was capable of that, but he could only tell Tang Wulin about his experience in soul forging. Tang Wulin had been attempting all along but was not successful. Feng Wuyu suggested that he look for the divine craftsman Shenhua, the #1 divine craftsman with a profound mastery of soul forging. Feng Wuyu had no choice but to allow his favorite disciple to learn from Shenhua for the sake of Tang Wulin's future. Tang Wulin's heart had already calmed down after 3 months. Perhaps it was his hectic cultivation schedule that distracted him such that he had no time to worry about anything else. He used a large amount of rare metals he accumulated and his rank 6 blacksmith's experience to complete 4 types of metal fuse forging within 3 months. Moreover, he performed modifications on the battle armor for himself and his comrades. In other words, he had upgraded the materials quality of their one-word battle armors. What was left to be done was crafting their battle armors afterward. Ji Yu had already completed the designs earlier, just like Yi Xinglan, who had elevated to a rank 6 mecha craftsman, could now begin crafting her 2-word battle armor. However, there were still some difficulties when they were crafting their 2-word battle armors, just like when they were crafting the 1-word battle armor back in the beginning. They did not possess adequate cultivation base. Typically, one would require a cultivation base of 6 rings in order to completely don a 2-word battle armor. Shuoisha said, "Since you're going to attempt to break through to 5 rings, I shall bring you to a place." He grabbed Tang Wulin's shoulder and leaped into the air as he was saying that. In the next instant, both of them vanished in mid-air. Tang Wulin could only feel the wind howling past his ear. It seemed like only a few seconds had passed when he landed on solid ground once again. This was a small valley located on Sea God's Island apparently. Its surroundings were lush green vegetation with a dense, life source. The fragrance of plants filled the air. Tang Wulin, whose martial soul was the blue-silver grass, could not help feeling overjoyed. The natural, dense source of the place could not be better for him to attempt breakthrough. He hastily sat and crossed his legs as he began to enter a meditative state. Shuoisha stood by Tang Wulin's side as he sensed the change in Tang Wulin's soul power fluctuation. Tang Wulin's mind calmed down as soon as he listened to the sound of wind blowing past his ears and breathed in the scents of the soil and plants. It was so easy to relax oneself in the wonderful nature. Tang Wulin's soul power moved along the mysterious heaven method circuit naturally. There seemed to be green flickers of light that were silently illuminated one after another in Tang Wulin's spiritual world. Those were the plants by his side. They sensed the blue-silver Emperor's aura on Tang Wulin's body, so they emitted friendly signals immediately as they echoed each other. Faint blue radiance was emitted from Tang Wulin's body as his black hair gradually turned blue from fusing with his aura. It seemed like he was a part of the great nature. Even Shuoisha could not discern Tang Wulin's presence despite his profound cultivation base by just relying on his sensation without using his eyesight. Shuoisha nodded quietly. Tang Wulin's current state signified that he had truly comprehended the secrets behind his own martial soul. This was great. The Golden Dragon King bloodline's aura was completely restrained. Only the blue-silver Emperor's aura was present. Gradually, his perception of the plant spread out toward the far end. Green flickers of light proliferated in Tang Wulin's spiritual world. His soul power was elevating while exerting a subtle influence on him. More plants were emitting their own aura and even unleashing their tiny bits of energy to fuse into Tang Wulin's aura. The blue-silver Emperor's aura that was unleashed from his body following the rhythm of his breathing was channeled to the plants. The plants exuded joyous and excited emotions from his action. It was easier for the plants to produce their spiritual intelligence due to the influence of the blue-silver Emperor's aura. Tang Wulin's face cracked into a faint smile. He felt as if he had found many relatives in the flora and they were flourishing together. His spiritual world was spreading out on an even larger scale and covered the entire Sea God's Island. All of a sudden, Tang Wulin's body shook. He sensed something unusual that was radiating from the plants. The feeling was different from the emission of the plants on Sea God's Island, which were on a higher life level. Yet at this moment, there seemed to be a special trait that was emitted from these plants. Those green flickers of light gradually turned golden in his spiritual world as they blended with his blue-silver Emperor's aura. Most importantly, the energy that was being channeled to him was suddenly elevated. Instantaneously, Tang Wulin felt as if an enormous creature charged forcefully into his spiritual world with such a loud bang that his body shook intensely. Then, he discovered in astonishment that there was the addition of a colossal golden ball of light in his spiritual world. It was so large that it filled his spiritual world to the brink. In the next moment, Tang Wulin's consciousness blurred. Right after, he discovered in surprise that he had arrived in a golden world. In his surroundings were all sorts of colorful, varied plants. These plants were in a faint golden color and emitted a life source that Tang Wulin had never felt before in his life. The dense life source made him breathe in large gulps, with every breath elevating his life level. Young boy. The aura on your body is of blue-silver Emperor, an aged voice suddenly echoed. Then, Tang Wulin saw an old man walking slowly out of the woods. He appeared truly peculiar with his already bent body enshrouded in a bright golden color. His long beard touched the ground, so was his long white hair, and even his brows were touching the ground. His faint golden eyes were exceedingly clear as he looked at Tang Wulin with an astonished look. "Hello? Where's this?" Tang Wulin asked in surprise. The old man replied, "You haven't answered me. Where does the blue-silver Emperor's aura on your body come from?" Tang Wulin answered, "My martial soul is precisely the blue-silver Emperor." The old man smiled as he shook his head. "That's impossible. Mankind can never possess the blue-silver Emperor martial soul. Tell me, how did it come to you?" Tang Wulin was stunned. Why can't mankind possess the blue-silver Emperor martial soul? The old man explained, because the blue-silver Emperor is the same as me. We belong to the highest life level of the plant world. It's impossible for us to combine with another life form. Unless you're part of the blue-silver Emperor, you don't possess the blue-silver Emperor bloodline. In simple terms, part of your body belongs to the plant. Do you understand? Tang Wulin spoke in a daze. "I don't understand. What do you mean by part of my body belongs to the plant?" The old man answered, "You're a fool. That is to say that one of your biological parents is a plant. A human being combined with a plant gave birth to you." Tang Wulin cried out involuntarily, "How is that possible? How can a human being possibly combine with a plant?" The old man spoke, "Nothing is impossible. A plant with spiritual intelligence is a soul beast. It can cultivate throughout its long lifespan. A plant can transform into a human being after 100,000 years of cultivation. So why can't it combine with a human? I'm right, you have his aura on your body. The aura that is inherited through a skipped generation. Yes. Blue-silver Emperor can only be inherited through this lineage on the continent. The aura on your body is so dense. Whoever is capable of awakening the blue-silver Emperor should be his direct bloodline. This is unbelievable." Tang Wulin was all confused. "So you're saying that one of my parents is a 100,000-year plant-type soul beast that transformed into a human? That's impossible. How's that possible? My father and mother are the most ordinary human beings." The old man spoke calmly, "I can't discuss this because I don't really understand what happened to you. Even so, I can sense the change in your body and your blue-silver Emperor bloodline. It was he who grafted me back in the beginning. He gave me the opportunity to be born so that I could take root in the ground until I was finally completely awakened and became such a life form. Since you're his progeny, I shall give you the same opportunity as well." Tang Wulin had only said one word when all of his surroundings suddenly turned into thick yet magnificent golden color. He could feel the golden hue fuse into his body while blades of the blue-silver Emperor surged out from him. However, his blue-silver Emperor had turned a brilliant gold. The grass blades plunged into the ground and turned the surrounding land golden. Golden radiance flashed on Tang Wulin's forehead as a golden tree branch-shaped marking emerged. In the next moment, he was completely immersed in the golden sea. His entire body felt warm and fuzzy with an indescribable easiness. Tang Wulin discovered to his surprise that his spiritual world had completely turned into a wondrous golden color. His spiritual power had not elevated very much. In fact, it had reduced by more than half, but his spiritual sea completely liquefied, then reappeared in an even stickier form. Most importantly, his heart felt open. It was a permeability that he had never felt before. It made all that had confused him in cultivation previously was thoroughly understood in a split second. The feeling was miraculous. It was as if he had suddenly become intelligent. Even though Tang Wulin understood that the situation was unbelievable, it truly felt like that. It was not known since when his soul power's rank 50 bottleneck had been breached so naturally. His soul power was elevated to a new level as it swept over his body, while it and his blood essence power turned into golden color, much to his surprise. His soul power was a slightly whiter gold, a little different from the pure gold of his blood essence power. What's going on? What did I actually encounter? His soul power flowed as rivers flow into the sea. Tang Wulin slowly exhaled a foul breath before opening his eyes. He was greatly shocked the moment he did so. He was so astonished he leaped up from the ground immediately. This was because he discovered that there was more than just the Scarlet Dragon Doluo Grand Teacher Shuosha was standing guard by his side. There was also another dozen people around him. Everyone's body was emitting incomparably terrifying auras. The Sea God Pavilion Master, who was also Enea's teacher, Atlas Doluo Elder Yunming, was standing right before Tang Wulin. The group's gaze was fixated on him, and they appeared to be rather unfriendly. Tang Wulin looked at Yunming, then he turned his head around to look at Shuoshu by his side. He could not help being stunned. There was something odd about Shuoshu's expression that Tang Wulin could not determine his current mood based on his expression. "Tell me, what's going on?" Yunming spoke with a deep voice. Tang Wulin was staring in bewilderment as he spoke. I don't know what's going on either. Elder Yun, what happened? I was only breaking through rank 50 bottleneck earlier. What are all of you? The corners of Yunming's lips twitched once. Only breaking through rank 50 bottleneck. His voice was raised to an obviously higher pitch, and he sounded quite furious. Tang Wulin gulped. He was truly unaware of what he had actually done that had triggered the Atlas Doluo's burning anger. Shuoshu coughed once as he spoke softly. "Wulin, what did you actually do earlier? All the plants on the entire Sea God's Island turned gold not long after you began to meditate." Tang Wulin looked at Shuoshu in bewilderment. "What? The plants on Sea God's Island turned golden, just like in my dream?" "Yes, all the plants on the entire Sea God's Island turned golden. It appeared just like an island cast in gold." The inner court disciples by the Sea God's Island shores were stunned by what they had just witnessed. This was a majestic scene that had never been seen before in the 10,000-year history of Sea God's Island ever since it was built. Dream? Yunming looked at Tang Wulin as a speculative look flashed past his eyes. "What did you see in your dream?" Tang Wulin hesitated ever so slightly before he explained briefly about everything that he had seen during his earlier meditation process. The expressions of Yunming and the surrounding eldest title Duluos became peculiar. Light Dark Doluo Long Yiyu sighed softly. "It's the grand old man's actions. However, this is truly very odd. What is he referring to actually? Pavilion Master, will you be communicating with him?" All of a sudden, Yunming's expression changed as he looked toward Tang Wulin with a blazing gaze. "You mentioned earlier that your martial soul is the Blue Silver Emperor, and that old man asked you the same question as well." "That's right." Tang Wulin spoke without the slightest hesitation. The Blue Silver Emperor and its bloodline could not possibly be inherited through the Blue Silver Emperor martial soul. Could it be that the old man was referring to? Yunming's face revealed that he was immediately shocked. It had already been a very long time since such an expression had ever appeared on a person of his status and identity. Light Dark Doluo Long Yiyue appeared to have recalled something as well. The expression on her face was similarly unusual. There was even shock within the eyes of the two great title Duluos. Tang Wulin spoke in a clearly confused manner. Pavilion Master, what do you mean? Yun Ming inhaled a deep breath and spoke with a deep voice. In the history of Shrek Academy, you're not the first student to possess Blue Silver Emperor martial soul. You're the second person. Before you, there was someone else who had the Blue Silver Emperor. You should know about that already. Tang Wulin felt a jerk in his heart, then he spoke with a respectful expression on his face. You mean the Almighty who created Tang Sect? The person who was also the first generation Shrek 7 monsters of Shrek Academy. Yun Ming nodded. It's indeed him. According to Elder Gold's words, your bloodline is possibly inherited from that. Tang Wulin's face was filled with shock. How is this possible? That was a person who existed over 20,000 years ago. If he had an heir, then I shouldn't be the second person to possess Blue Silver Emperor martial soul either. Moreover, Pavilion Master, my martial soul was originally the Blue Silver Grass, then it became the Blue Silver Emperor when it was triggered by my bloodline's elevation recently. It should be considered my martial soul's second awakening. Yun Ming looked at him with profound meaning in his eyes. The first ancestor from 20,000 years ago possessed the same Blue Silver Grass and became the Blue Silver Emperor after the awakening. He possessed such a bloodline because his mother was a 100,000-year Blue Silver Emperor that cultivated into a human being. Elder Gold can never be wrong because no one understands the plant-type martial soul's world more than the Grand Old Man. Thus, your bloodline is possibly inherited from that person. Even though it's separated by many generations, your surname is Tang as well. Tang Wulin was slightly confused. So you mean that the old man in my dream truly exists? Yun Ming gave a cold grunt. Do you realize that energy at the true center of Sea God's Island has lessened by more than 30% during your meditation process? Tang Wulin's face was filled with confusion. Of course he did not realize that, and he was utterly unaware of what Yun Ming was telling him. Everyone follow me. Yun Ming waved his huge sleeve at Tang Wulin as he spoke. Tang Wulin could only feel as if he had lost control of his body in a split second. He became dizzy as the vision before his eyes blurred, but he was not feeling unwell either. There was a single brilliant flash of light. When the vision before his eyes became crystal clear once again, he had already arrived at another location. The first scene that came into view was a towering tree. The giant tree was so enormous that its crown seemed boundless. A large treehouse was built under it that was completely supporting the massive tree's existence. A plaque inscribed with 3 large words was hanging on the treehouse. Sea God Pavilion? Tang Wulin was shocked. This was his first time visiting here, but there was no doubt that this was Sea God Pavilion, the most central location of Shrek Academy and even Shrek City. This was the place that only the fellow Sea God Pavilion's elders were allowed to stay. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.